The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi again, this is Ralph Boehm for Legislative Update. My co-host
Erica Layon from Derry.
Okay. First thing I want to do before we get into the legislation, which we spent on Wednesday and Thursday, is sort of a little apology I made because I messed up this week. Because Monday, as I'm driving home, I see this funeral, and I'm going, uh-oh, did I miss something? And sure enough, I did. Pull up the screen there, and it was Kathleen Algio that had passed away, and I've known her and the family for years, and she was a ballot clerk for years, and she was also a town librarian, and her husband started Litchfield Small Tube. My daughter, for example, went to school with her oldest son, Donald, and who's now a retired Army doctor, but I also worked for years with her other two kids, Patrick and Colleen, who now run Litchfield Small Tube, but don't tell their father that. But anyway, that thing. So anyway, I just want to apologize that I wasn't there at the funeral because I didn't know about it. But anyway, just want to say with heartfelt regrets that I didn't make the funeral. This is a public apology for that. So anyway, with that, we'll go on to what happened this week up in the State House.
So we had 2 days of session. We showed up on Wednesday and worked through a bunch of our bills, and we went through Thursday as well.
Right. And and just go over some of the things we did. We passed a bill in education. I mean, the only one that wasn't on consent, which means, and we deliberately did it because now on your student ID starting next year, when you go to school, high school, middle school, whatever, if anybody's got a student ID, on the back of the student ID will be it's going to include this in the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number, which is 988 will be. Mm-hmm. Which why we have to now dial 603 on all of our numbers, because 988 was an exchange up north.
Oh.
So now all your numbers you have to go 603.
Mm-hmm. You know what? But if that makes it easy for people to get the help they need, right. If they're thinking about suicide, it's worth it to dial the 603. Right. So now I understand why we did that.
Right, and it's named after the boy that had committed suicide. His parents had come in to push for that bill, so it was named after him. What was it? It's there somewhere. Anyway, it's SB 234. If you want to look it up.
The Jason Dickey Suicide Prevention Act.
Jason Dickey Suicide Prevention Act.
Yes.
Okay. So it was a young boy, I guess he was in high school, and everything like good, and nothing was wrong, and all of a sudden then he commits suicide. So anyway, it's named after him, and now so all the kids, they know, hey, I can call this number if I'm thinking about suicide. Because in my life, I noticed when people talk about suicide, they usually aren't going to. It's the ones that are very quiet, and nobody knows about it, and so those are the ones, and this way they're ready, automatically have that number right on their ID card. Okay, next one is in ED&A, Executive Departments Administration, and that's SB 274 on governmental contracts. There was a bill, and it was killed. There was a bill to say for government contracts in New Hampshire, which includes local, and you can only have government contracts with companies that don't force union employees. That you can't do that. There's not that big enough companies in New Hampshire that don't have. and you might have to go out of state and do it. So it was nice to know type thing, because sometimes you can get cheaper, but it wasn't feasible really to do it. SB 325, the same thing. Emergency management for first responders. This increases, that's SB 235, 325, I'm sorry. Well, I looked that up, and increases the people that are first responders. And maybe, you know, in the pandemic or something like that, or an emergency, they can be reimbursed by FEMA. So for policemen or whatever that go out. And a good one from Finance, SB 366. There will be an audit of ballots for the 2022 primary and general election. What this is going to do is get the Secretary of State to audit on random 2 to 4 election places, to do an audit of the whole town of the ballots cast. This is just to tell people, hey, we know everything is working fine. The machines do work. And the problems we heard in Laconia and Bedford and Windham were not machine problems. They were people problems. And caused by really the pandemic, because they had separate places for people that didn't want to wear masks. And that's where a lot of the mess up happened. So that should fix it. Tell people, and also to make sure, because some people think the machines are connected on the internet. They are not. They cannot be. They cannot even be connected on the internet. And it's not legal for them to connect on the internet. And they don't have the feasibility of doing it. And still, there's a lot of people that think the machines are bad. No, they're not. They actually, I remember when I was a selectman in the 93, 94 or something, I was the one that started with the machines, got them on the ballot. Of course, that was on the previous election. I was up to 4 o'clock in the morning counting ballots. Yeah, so it's, and Hudson and Bedford had gotten the machines, so I remember the moderator and I went to both towns and watched, and that's when we put it on the ballot. The machines work, they are very accurate, and even in our last election, town election, the town clerk even had invited people to come in and see how they tested the machines. And we used to always do that. The machines, you can put the ballot in this way, this way, this way, this way. Any of 4 ways, and it works. And that's what happens with the testing. Wyndham had a problem with the ballots weren't folded right, so the creases weren't right, and that was a person problem. Also, there were ballots that weren't counted. You know, same thing that happened in Bedford and Laconia. So
I think this is a great bill. This is going to give people a lot more confidence.
Yeah.
Derry actually was the largest polling place in November 2020 in the whole country. And we have all of those ballots to count.
Yeah.
So in our primary, we had a hand recount. And so I went to that. And there was just so many ballots, so many to count, that just watching them do that, I kept losing track.
Right.
And you're going to have more mistakes with a human doing that. So I'm really glad we're going to have these audits to make sure that our confidence is well founded, which I believe it is.
Right.
And if not, we can do something about it. But this is going to help us make sure that all of this is set, and I think it is.
Right, yeah, just to give people, that the machines are right. I think the machines, in a lot of cases, sometimes are more accurate than people counting. People make mistakes, especially if you're counting 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, and it's like 4 people counting and 1 person writing down, and anybody can make a mistake. And if the mistake is made, is because the ballot's not marked right or overmarked, or if people try to erase. And that's one of the things. If you make a mistake on the ballot, go back to the person that gave you one and get another one. Don't try to erase and whatnot. It's probably not going to work. So get another ballot if you make a mistake, and they'll just void that one. So there's usually enough of them. So hopefully that takes care of that. Now also, we covered this, I believe, when it was in education, but in finance, there was a bill, SB 381, to Office of the Advocate for Special Education. That's so if you're having a problem with getting special ed right at your school and you don't know where to go, you can go to the DOE. There's a person that will do that. And then this goes like one step more. There's actually an advocate for you to see how things go. And somebody argument, well, the advocate doesn't have any authority to change things. But if it comes to taking it to court and the advocate agrees with you, you have somebody saying, hey, they should have done it this way. But usually won't got that far. If the advocate said, yeah, no, this is following the law, you have to do this, this, this. So hopefully that can handle people that do have problems with special education. Now, SB 407.
So that one started off in my committee.
Yes.
That one is expanding postpartum Medicaid. So right now, if you get pregnant and you qualify for Medicaid, you stay on it. Right now, because of COVID, you stay on it till the end of time. But that's going to change once we get out of this COVID time period, and they're starting to see an end in sight. Right when it goes back to that, it'll be 60 days after you give birth. The Medicaid, you'll have to actually qualify with your income. So if your income still qualifies for Medicaid with your new additional family member or family members, if you've had multiples, then you'll still keep your Medicaid. But there's some people that qualified while they were pregnant, but then they don't qualify anymore because they're making more money and their family's making more money. There's a federal program to extend this to 12 months, but the state needs to allow it. So that would go to 12 months. And if you qualified at some point in your pregnancy, you have your Medicaid all the way through, you get to 12 months and you haven't had to qualify your income. If you get pregnant again, you're not qualifying for that next pregnancy. And it's going to get to a point, if you're making a lot more money, you might have a lot of incentive to really try hard to space your family a little closer. There's nothing wrong with closely spaced pregnancies, but it's better for you to have some time off in between. And it just, I understand why people think that it's so helpful to extend it to 12 months, but there's some other unintended consequences that could happen from it, especially because we have to follow all the federal laws around it. And we can't say in New Hampshire, yes, but we do want to be able to re-verify your income. So it's one of those things that's really kind-hearted, but then you have to think about the other families that it hurts.
Yeah, and everybody's different. Every person's different. Some, their postpartum might only be a couple of weeks or a month, and some might.
Well, and there are other diseases and other risks that do happen. Right. I had some unfavorable things said about me around this bill, but I'm really concerned about the families that make over that amount of money, and they're making it. They're working hard. They're not getting these benefits, but the more and more we expand for people, the more we're going to force them onto that because they won't be able to pay their taxes and be able to raise their family. And we don't want to force dependence on people. So that's my big concern around that one. Yeah. But it passed the House. And
so this is the Senate bill, so already pinned to the Senate. Senate passed it. We got it. I don't know if we amended it or not.
We did amend it.
We did amend it. So now it goes back to the Senate, and the Senate says we can either, we can concur with that amendment, we like it, or we do not concur, and that pretty much kills it, or we do not concur and want a committee of conference where you have 7 people coming together and agreeing, and then on the 22nd? Anyway.
And we need to agree by 4 p.m. on the 19th.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have to then agree. We can't edit it or amend it or anything. At that point, we have to take the agreement from the committee of conference.
And so this one was amended with a bill to allow exemptions from vaccine mandates. So this was the one that had people being able to have an exemption if their employer took any state or federal money, or if they worked for state or federal to be able to have an exemption.
Yeah. One thing that I should mention is one of the things that happened when we have the last 2 days of all the bills have to be done. The Senate, and we've already voted on bills, Senate bills, and maybe killed them. The Senate had already ITL'd some House bills. So the games we play, so like Wednesday and Thursday, we took some bills that the Senate had already killed that were House bills that we really want. So we amended them to some of the Senate bills that they want.
And we're in session at the same time, so they saw what we did. They saw that we put this vaccine one on the 12-month Medicaid one. And so they put the 12-month Medicaid, this SB 407, on another bill that's about prohibiting discrimination over vaccine status. So it's like playing chess or poker.
Right. So what'll happen is, like, we have a committee of conference, and I remember I've been on enough of them over the years, and sometimes you completely agree and your committee conference is over in 2 seconds. Sometimes it's plays games. I remember I did a committee of conference, even though I wasn't on it, but there was nobody that was appointed to that committee conference that was ever on one on the House side, so I said, I'll run it. And I did, like, behind the scenes. And when it happened, the Senate had to put an amendment on the bill we all wanted, including the Democrats and Republicans wanted, but the Senate attached something to it. So behind the scenes, I got the Democrat that was also co-sponsoring the bill to talk to the senator. Hey, we're taking this off, and I hope you're going to agree. And we had an amendment all done already for the committee of conference to take that off. So it games we play behind things, but the problem is, hopefully we can get people on committee of conference that at least been on a committee of conference. And that would, but usually you find somebody that been on one before to chair the committee of conference, because everybody's got to agree. Now, you don't have to be there to agree, but you have to at least call in before a certain time to say, yeah, sign me off, to the speaker or the. But if one person doesn't sign off, it's dead. So all people, everybody's got to sign off.
Yeah, it's a big risk to go to those, but it's how you make sure everybody knows what's important. We had so many bills this year.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting. The Senate's mad at us because we gave them 350 bills, but we had like nearly 1,000. So I mean, and look at all of them that we tabled.
It was 105 before we went into this week's sessions.
That we. Hey, and then they give us these. We'll get to that one again. So the next bill is, which we had covered last couple weeks ago, the electric school bus pilot. That was tabled mainly because there was a lot of concern about that and about the buses, and there's other places doing it. So the thing is, and this was going to use the Volkswagen settlement money. Remember when the Volkswagen was cheating on their computer? So when it was inspected, it would give the wrong data. Anyway, so there was money there, and a lot of states got the money, and they were going to use that, but that can be used for other things. And other states and other places are looking at electric buses. And I think for a big thing, I think that's one of the things to go on, maybe, if it works fine in Minnesota. But where it's really cold and works here, because they're not going long trips. They're around town, and so. My joke on electric vehicles is, the Ford F-150, they're coming out with the electric vehicle and gets 400 miles, and my joke is maybe an option would be, because they said there's nothing under the hood. That's where they can put an electric generator. For when you get stranded on the highway in a blizzard.
Just build a generator into the truck bed?
No, you just leave it, have it, start it up and charge your car. I'm thinking it's a great option. But that's the problem that happens. And what was it this year in, where it was Virginia? People were stranded on 95 for days. Now, if you run out of gas, all they got to do, AAA comes and gives you a gallon of gas. That happened last time too. I'm bad.
You're just popular.
Okay. 2 weeks in a row, anyway.
Well, and it also didn't help. I think it was France where one of their electric buses went up in flames, literally.
Yeah.
Fortunately, nobody was on it. But seeing that just ahead of this bill,
Right.
we were worried about putting the kids at risk about doing this if it wasn't safe. So
Yeah, so that's so the whole thing is let's let somebody else do it first and come out with it. I mean, there are a lot of, you go, in a lot of cities, I think Concord got electric buses and other places do too. So, but for school buses, that's a bigger issue. They really have to be, because I remember the police always come, the state police, when the bill, it passed, where the bill we passed last year for coach buses, that we take to the airports or big field trips or stuff like that, where you have luggage, which you don't want in a regular bus. So it used to be 75 miles, 150 round trip or something. But I took the mileage out because we forgot about, like Londonderry takes their marching band to the airport how many times a year? They used to probably be doing that again soon. So, of course, the state police came and said, well, we really don't like it because the safest buses are the orange ones. And anyway, but he said, I can't say anything about it because it's already law. But yeah, it's not safe if you got suitcases and band instruments flying around. So, but they don't look at it that way. Anyway, the next big bill is, so that bill, last one I just was tabled, so it's not going to happen. Voter affidavit, I discussed this a little bit last time, and it passed finance. I think they made a minor amendment to it, but what's good about it is, and this is not going to happen till, not this year, but
the 2024 election.
yeah, the next. So anyway, when we can hopefully straighten things out. How that works is you go in without an ID, you don't have any other proof that you live there in town, you sign an affidavit. That's what you do now. And we keep hearing people complaining that there's no voter fraud. No, wait a minute. If we have 700 people that signed in that way, an affidavit, and you send postcards out, like the Secretary of State does, or the Attorney there, one of the two, and you get 200 some back, that's fraud. The problem is, they keep saying nobody's been, well, there's been a couple of people found guilty, but how can you prove any of that? You can't find these people, they don't exist.
And you can't charge a ghost.
Right. So anyway, and I think, what was it, somebody found how many dead people had voted in the last election
and so
in New Hampshire.
It's just those people who are being added to the checklist because they haven't registered to vote before, they don't have any of that an identification. So it's a really small group, but that's the one that's the highest risk, because if you're on the checklist already, then you can go ahead and
Right.
check them out.
And who doesn't have an ID? You can't go anywhere without an ID. The thing is, it's how that works now, because in New Hampshire, all ballots have to be counted that day. So how that works is you're given a special ballot that's numbered, okay, and then it's counted. Now, so you have 7 days to send the thing to the Secretary of State, or bring it to the Secretary of State. See, I'm really here, I really am who I am, then it's fine. If they don't get anything in 7 days, they tell the town clerk in the town to pull that ballot, that number. So people say, well, that goes, the people know then who voted, how they voted. Yeah, but it wasn't a legal ballot. So, and they shouldn't have voted anyway. So it's not going to be an issue because we have a time limit for how many days between the primary and the regular day. It's got to be 45 days by federal law. And that's close with us being in September for the primary, which I keep wanting to move it to August, but anyway. But the governor doesn't like it. I don't know why. But anyway, so what happens is that gets close. But the thing is, it'll only be a problem if those affidavit ballots will make a difference. If somebody wins by 100 votes and there's only 10 affidavit ballots, it doesn't make an issue. It doesn't make an issue. But a lot of state reps races are only by 1 or 2 votes in some cases. So But most, in some towns, so it's not gonna be the whole statewide, maybe 3 or 4 towns anyway. So hopefully, that'll take care of that. And,
And that's
Okay.
the thing, sometimes it only is a couple votes. So if those couple votes are people that don't exist,
Right.
then it's worth it in order to track those down. Because if it's a difference of 3 votes and you had 4 ghost votes in town,
Right.
that changes the outcome of the election. And it's
Right.
worth the hassle,
yeah.
so.
So the next one, 430, Health and Human Services, the big bill which we covered last time, but
Yes.
what did finance do to your big bill?
So the big bill, the changes that finance made were things that worked with what we had done. There were just so many different areas where you're changing the names and whatnot. So they did all of those different sections. On the floor, it actually was added to have the option of cash pay, direct pay hospitals or membership models. And I don't know if anybody here has heard about Kaiser Permanente out in California, but that's exactly what their model is. It's a membership model where you buy into getting your health care through Kaiser. And so Kaiser provides it. I don't really see Kaiser coming out here for a market, but the really nice thing about having
yeah.
this option is that they're not taking Medicare and Medicaid. So that means that the rules we're getting from DC saying that if you're going to work in a hospital, you need to be vaccinated, it allows those doctors who view that personal choice as something that they can still honor.
Yeah, I know
And,
we tried that over the years and it kept getting shut down. But if somebody wants to open up a clinic for these people, say maybe union people for a particular union, they can't. Or just for people that they want to pay in cash, they don't want to have insurance or whatnot, they can do that. But and it's got to be 15 miles from another thing. So
Yeah.
I mean, now I think hopefully this will go through and
I hope
we
so.
can do it.
I mean, because right now we're pretty much getting held hostage by Medicare and Medicaid for
Right.
$2.6 billion of reimbursement.
Right.
So that was the argument on the other one, that if they pass those exemptions, we're putting $2.6 billion at risk if they don't like the way we do the vaccine exemptions. So this lets those people who don't want to do that not put that money at risk and still keep operating.
Yeah, and have you ever looked at your hospital bills? Say if you've been to the hospital like I was recently. But anyway, you look at the hospital bill and you see all these charges and you see the hospital charge, then you see what the insurance paid and you're covered. But wait a minute, if you didn't have insurance, look what you would have had to pay. You know, which is...
Well, and then they have other cash prices too, because I've had some things where I do that. But you also have different choices, because if the insurance company is not going to pay for some procedure, they might not do it enough.
Right, so try it someplace else, yeah.
Exactly.
So you can
And-
choice.
Instead of flying to Aruba, do it here in New Hampshire.
Okay, whoops, okay. I hope we have some more time. But anyway, affordable housing, which I didn't like because the problem with it is, where do you do it? Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah.
Where is it now?
That one, 400, Senate Bill 400.
Yeah,
It was tabled, and the Senate added it back to one of our bills, the one with the big parking garage.
Yeah, the problem with affordable housing is what's affordable. And to me, it's supply and demand. Okay, you can look at all the apartment houses they built in where is it? Damn it! In Nashua, Hudson, and Londonderry. They're still not affordable because it's supply and demand. And if somebody builds, what are you going to do? Regulate the prices people can charge? Not going to work.
They almost are, because some of the regulations make it so expensive to build.
Right. Yeah.
Because you have to put in a $50 breaker instead of a $5 breaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my kind of affordable
Right.
housing.
Anyway, SB 345, you want to look at it if you have kids that want to work, relative to youth unemployment. There's different hours now they can work, more hours. Redistricting, again, that passed again. I was going to show the map, but it pretty much, District 1 is going to be the 93 quarter, a little bit north of Manchester and south to Wyndham and Salem. The seacoast is still CD2, and the rest of the state is CD2. But the thing is, I don't know. We're filing in less than a month, and the people running for Congress still don't know whether running on. So it's utterly ridiculous, and I blame the governor and the Senate because how we did it, we finished it in January on the House side, and the Senate's been, and then the governor comes out at the last minute. I don't like it.
And so this one, there's a difference of 9 people between the two districts.
Right.
It would have been 300 votes difference between winning and losing in CD1, so it's really competitive.
Yeah.
And it keeps almost all the counties intact, and it keeps all the cities intact.
Yeah.
So it checks all the boxes.
And if you look at the Republicans and Democrats, it's 0.1% difference. So anyway, so with that, good evening. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you so much.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.